In 1974, a 72-year-old man with failing health stood in Gandhi Maidan, Patna in front of 5 lakh people. He did not hold a government position, he had no political party, he commanded no army, he controlled no media outlet, and 18 months later, he had forced the most powerful prime minister in Indian history to suspend the constitution, declare emergency, and throw him in jail. 3 years post that, his movement ended her entire political career. Yes, his name was Jayaprakash Narayan and people call him JP. What he did between 1974 and 1977 is a masterclass in something that most people never study. Influence without position, power without office, authority without any of the tools that we normally associate with authority. This episode is going to be interesting, and today we're going to break down exactly how a retired Gandhian with no formal power built a movement so strong that brought down the most dominant political machine in post-independence India. And the principles that you can steal from it, whether you're building a company, a movement, or a personal brand. Now let's talk about India in 1973. Inflation was running at 20%, food shortages, oil shock from the Middle East, unemployment was climbing. A generation of students were graduating into a country that had nothing to offer them. At the top, Indira Gandhi, the then Prime Minister, who was the daughter of Nehru, had just split the Congress party and won a massive mandate. She controlled parliament, the press, the entire bureaucracy, and then Gujarat exploded. Students started the Navnirman movement. Protests over hostel food prices turned into protests over corruption, then into protests against the state government. Finally, they won. The Gujarat chief minister had to resign. Bihar students saw it and started their own movement. The demands were movement that was corruption, unemployment, fees. But Bihar students needed something Gujarat did not need. A leader with moral weight, someone the public could follow. So they went to JP. JP at this point was 72, retired from active politics for over a decade now. He had walked away from power repeatedly throughout his life. He refused ministerial positions under Nehru, he refused to lead Congress, he chose Gandhian social work, and that is the part nobody could buy or fake. He had already refused power multiple times, and that is where this influence came from. Now let's talk about his foundation, which was moral authority, and that is what separates JP from every other politician of his era. Politicians derive authority from positioning. It could be office, title, parliamentary seats, cabinet posts. Take the position away and they have nothing. But JP's authority came from the opposite. It came from what he had refused. He had been offered the prime ministership in the 50s and he refused it. He was asked to lead Congress and he refused it. Nehru personally wanted him as a successor, but he refused him as well. Why? Because he was committed to Gandhian work. Sarvodaya, Bhudan, going village to village asking landlords to donate land to the landless. For 20 years, he chose obscurity over power. And when he returned in 1974 and started criticizing corruption, nobody could attack him. There was no ministerial record to expose, no favors he had taken, no policy decisions he had compromised on. He had no business empire, no dynasty. There was nothing to defend. And this is the asymmetry that terrified the ruling establishment. They had everything to lose, but he had nothing to lose. In a country where politicians are presumed corrupt until proven clean, JP was presumed clean by the public. The burden of proof was reversed in his case, and that reversal alone was worth more than any political party's moves. Moral authority is earned by a decade of refusing things. You cannot manufacture it in one campaign cycle. That's the beauty of it, right? On June 5th of 1974, in Gandhi Maidan, Patna, 5 lakh people accumulated. JP takes the stage and did something brilliant. He does not list 15 demands. He does not release a 40-pager manifesto. He does not give a 3-hour-long speech. He gave his movement a name. Sampurna Kranti, total revolution. 2 words, translatable, memorable, big enough to hold everything and small enough to chant. Inside those 2 words, JP fits 7 different revolutions. Political, social, economic, cultural, ideological, educational, and spiritual. Most political programs fail because they are too specific. Cut price X by Y%, legalize policy Z, easy to attack and easy to dismiss. JP did the opposite. He went maximally broad, total revolution, Sampurn Kranti. How do you argue against Sampurn Kranti? You cannot say we prefer partial revolution. You cannot say we are against transformation in 7 different dimensions of national growth. The framing itself trapped the opposition. And this is the difference between the policy demand and a civilizational change. A policy demand can get negotiated, but civilizational demands get answered or they destroy you. By naming his movement Sampurn Kranti, JP was not asking Indira Gandhi for concessions. He was telling India that the entire system needed to be rebuilt. That is a frame that no politician can argue inside of. The best politicians argue positions, and the best influencers set the frame inside arguments happen. Students were used for distribution. JP understood something that most leaders miss. A movement needs a distribution network. Not just a message, not just a name, but also a distribution network. In 1974 in Bihar, the distribution network already existed. It was called Students. Every district had a university. Every university had a campus. Every campus had student leaders who were organizing. They had time, energy, idealism, and networks in their native places that they could easily return to. JP did not build the network, he inherited the network and made it his. Here is what he told students: withdraw from the system, boycott examinations, walk out of colleges, send volunteers to villages, stop cooperating with the corrupt government. No violence, only non-cooperation. Every student who boycotted an exam became a node. He went home, they told their families what was happening in Patna. They took the message into villages that the Congress party machinery had control for 30 years now. One speech in Gandhi Maidan became 1,000 conversations in 1,000 villages over a single weekend. Students were the perfect distribution layer, not because they were uniquely smart or righteous, because they were uniquely unbought. They had no jobs to lose, no families to feed, no government positions to protect. The greatest movement in history do not build their own armies. They find populations that are already mobilized and give them a reason to march. JP borrowed a weapon directly from Gandhi: non-cooperation. You do not attack the government, you do not fight its police, you do not raise your fists. You simply stop cooperating. You do not pay taxes, you don't attend college, you don't turn up to government offices, you don't recognize the legitimacy of the government. This was brilliant because it removed the government's most useful tool, force. If you attack the police, they can shoot you and then you become a terrorist. If you burn buses, they arrest you for vandalism and you become a criminal. Force works against force. But what does force do against absence? If 1 million students stop showing up to classes, who do you arrest? If farmers refuse to pay taxes, do you actually jail 80 million farmers? If the public simply stops recognizing you as legitimate, what does your army do? Non-cooperation flips the burden onto the ruler. Suddenly the state has to prove that it matters. Suddenly, every arrest makes the movement bigger. Every act of repression validates the movement's central frame that the system is rotten. Indira Gandhi could not defeat non-cooperation, and that is why she eventually had to declare emergency, which was the exact admission of weakness that JP wanted. Now let's talk about the moment, the emergency. June 1975, Allahabad High Court rules that Indira Gandhi violated electoral law and she must vacate the seat. JP sees the opening and drives straight through it. In Ram Leela Maidan in 1975, 1 lakh people attended. JP recites a poem by Ramdhari Singh Dinkar. Singhasan khali karo ki janta aati hai. Vacate the throne, the people are coming. He calls on the military and police to refuse unconstitutional orders. A retired Gandhian tells the armed forces to disobey the Prime Minister. Indira Gandhi's response is immediate. That night, at the stroke of midnight, she declares a national emergency. She suspends the constitution. She arrests all the opposition leaders overnight. JP is now jailed, and this is the moment most people think JP lost. He did not lose here, and this is the moment he actually won. Because by declaring emergency, Indira did 3 stupid things at once. 1. She proved JP's core accusation. Democracy itself was now under threat. 2. She made JP a martyr. A 72-year-old retired freedom fighter with a failing health was now in prison. 3. She made every Indian ask the question that JP wanted them to ask. If she is willing to suspend the constitution to silence one old Gandhian, what does that tell you about the system that we were fighting? The emergency was her admission of defeat, not his. The only people who didn't realize it were her advisors. In March 1977, Indira Gandhi lifted the emergency. She now has to call elections believing that she could win it easily. Opposition is fractured, she has the machinery, right? JP was released from jail, he was sick, he could barely see because of kidney failure. He does one more thing. He forces the opposition to unite. Under pressure from JP personally, 4 opposition parties merged to become the Janata Party. He would not endorse any of them until they united. They had no choice. His moral authority was the only thing they could run the elections on. The Janata Party won 295 seats and Congress won 554. Indira Gandhi lost her own seat. The first non-Congress government in independent India's history was thus formed because one old man refused to run for office himself but insisted that everyone else stop fighting each other and become united as one. JP never took a single position in the new government. He stayed in the movement. He continued his Sarvodaya work. He died 2 years later. He had done the impossible and then walked away from the rewards. Exactly the pattern that had given him authority in the first place. He was a man that generations and generations should study and should try to embody the spirits that he had. Here is the lesson for you. Moral authority is a compounding asset. Every time you refuse something you could have taken, the balance grows. Most people running businesses, building brands, trying to become influencers are doing the opposite. They're grabbing every opportunity, taking every sponsor, accepting every deal, charging for everything they can possibly charge for, and then they wonder why their audience does not trust them. JP spent 20 years refusing things. Ministerial positions, party leaderships, the prime ministership itself. And that is what made his speech in Gandhi Maidan worth 5 lakh people showing up. You can use the same principles in business, not for 20 years, but the logic is identical. 1. Publicly refuse something you could have taken. Turn down a sponsor that does not fit your values. Say it out loudly. That refusal is worth more than the money you would have made. 2. Pick one frame that is too big to argue with. JP had Sampoorn Kranti or Total Revolution. What is yours? Not a product claim, a civilizational claim. Something like we believe every small business deserves enterprise level technology. Something like we believe cosmetic medicine should be honest and not aspirational. The frame makes the competitor look small even before they speak. 3. Find the network that already exists. You do not have to build an audience from scratch. Figure out where the audience already gathers. Find the groups, the forums, the communities, the professional associations. Give them something worth spreading. 4. Use absence, not volume. Be willing to not post when you have nothing to say. Be willing to turn down clients who are not a perfect fit. Scarcity is a signal. Availability everywhere is just noise. 5. Walk away when you win. The fastest way to destroy the moral authority built is to cash it in for a position. JP refused the government that he helped create. That refusal is why Indians still respect him 50 years later and look at him with awe. Now my honest caveat. JP's movement won an election, yes, but the Janata government then fell apart in under 3 years. Sampoorn Kranti was never implemented. Moral authority is incredible at breaking resistant systems, but it is not the same skill as building a new system. This matters for your business. The founder who can attract a movement is usually not the same person who can operate the company that the movement builds. They are different skills. Sometimes the same person can do both, but more often than not, they can't. JP knew this about himself. That is why he refused the prime ministership multiple times. He understood that his asset was rare and non-transferable. Moral authority. You spend it on what only it can buy. You do not waste it on administration. So if you build moral authority in the market, protect it. Use it for the moments that only the moral authority can get you. Hire operators for everything else. Now, one man, 72 years old, retired with failing kidneys, without any office, any party, any army or any media, brought down the most powerful government in post-independent India in just 3 years. This was because he understood something the Prime Minister did not. Authority is not given by position, it is built by refusal. It compounds over decades. It is spent once in one decisive moment, and the people who hold it never need to hold office. The business lesson is simple. Stop asking how to be seen and start asking what are you willing to refuse. Stop optimizing for volume and start optimizing for signals. Stop chasing every deal and start protecting the asset that makes every future deal easier. Your audience does not need you to be louder, they need a reason to trust that your competitors cannot fake. JP's reason was 20 years of refusing power. Whatever yours is, start building it now. Not the week before you need it, decades before you need it. Because in the end, the 72-year-old in Gandhi Maidan did not win with strategy. He won with receipt. 2 decades of saying no cashed in on one Tuesday afternoon in June 1974. That is the most asymmetric trade in Indian political history, and the blueprint is available to anyone willing to play the long game. I hope you liked the video. If you liked it, share with someone who might find this valuable. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and I'm gonna see you in the next one.